Boker Tov, Yom Tov, Zorim Tovim, and Laila Tov, no matter where you are at. This is Carrie, and I'm going to be speaking to you today from the proof room on a verse that was brought up in a discussion, and I really enjoyed what I saw in it, so I thought I would take the time and share it with you today. We're looking at Isaiah 45:7 that says, I form the light and create darkness. I make peace and create calamity. I, Yahuwah, do all these things. Now, on the surface, one of the things that you can take away when you look at this is the system that we live in is very much dual in nature. And so even looking at it, forming light and darkness, peace and calamity, I do all of these things. I would like to take a look at this word for word to see what's really being said here. But one of the first things that we need to make a distinction is when we look at the word known as the Tetragrammaton YHWH. This has been actually a very controversial subject because, dependent upon the sum total of ingathering to this point, you could see that this entity right here could be very negative in nature. And this would be the take that some of the people have gone through the Gnostic texts have seen as Yoldabaoth. And that is not what I see as being presented here. Again, some of these things that are in ancient history that are no longer serving us, we are getting rid of them because we are coming up higher. We are coming up higher in our frequency, in our evolution, in how we see in our levels of consciousness. We're moving into a place of unity and love versus separation and divide, which is what the system of duality did, of separating this and that, and as an example, like I said, between light and dark and peace and calamity. So when we take a look at YHWH in its essence, where it came from, it's good to always track things down to its root, to its source. And when we take a look at the explanation that is given for YHWH, we can say it is the self-existent or the eternal, the Jewish national name of God, but this is the self-existent of eternal one. First of all, it is very important for us to connect to the fact that we are eternal beings as well. As energy is not created or destroyed, it's only transferred, then that means the energy that resides within us is eternal. And upon death, it gets transferred. This can bring in a whole lot of other subjects, but our energy that makes us up of who we are is eternal. So this is in and consistent with the Tetragrammaton, and let me show you a little reason why I would say that as well. This is the root of where YHWH comes from. And when you take a look at it, it is He Yod He. And in Paleo, we have revelation, and then we have the work and deed of the hand, that is revelation. Well, in Hebrew, as we progress, we also know that the Yod is connected to vision. The spelling of the symbol Yod, Yodalit, and the same word for Kazah, Het, Zayin, He, have the same gematria, so therefore they're related. So this is a vision that is given between two revelations. The revelation that gives a vision that then is a vision of a revelation. If you are not connecting this and to the pattern of the Ark of the Testimony, of the two cherubim on top, you would never be able to see this. This is a revelation that comes from Mother's teaching, that teaches us up until the age of 12, that she gives us a vision to present so that we can see the revelation that comes from the Father's teaching, which takes us from the age of 12 on into adulthood, into a maturity. Mother teaches the divine masculine, which is then preparing us to be set apart as the bride. And then the Father's teaching in the betrothal period as already the bride teaches us how to become wife, which is also would be known as queen on the wedding day, as Asherah, Queen of Heaven, who sits on the right hand of the Father as the Holy Ones. A lot said there, and I don't like the religious overtones, but really when we look at the words in the Hebrew, we can see much more depth than the English definitions that we have come to accept through our indoctrination. So this is to fall out, to come to pass, to be and become. These twin revelations that have been divided, that have a common vision in between, are meant to come to pass, to be and become. And if you want to see this, I find this interesting. So this is the root of YHWH, and the very first time it's used is in Genesis 1:2. And we have it in the form here that has a tav added in between. Anytime letters that are added in the root or to the prefix in the suffix, they all have meaning, and you would never see this in the English translations whatsoever. That's why much is lost in translation. And the tav means mark, sign, covenant, signature, and it's attached to frequency. This is the last letter of the Hebrew alphabet, which would be known as the end. But it also is connected to the covenant of love, Tav Vav, because everything has been created in and through the frequency of love, because God is love, and without love, nothing can be held together. So, very first time Haya is used in the root form is in the earth was without form. This is Tohu and Bohu. We've spoken of this many, many times about the formless and void. And I find it is interesting, kind of going off side tangent here, but when we take a look at in the beginning God created, there is no Elohim, or there is no Haya or YHWH in this first verse. In the beginning created Elohim. If it truly was what we would think that it would be, it would have been YHWH. So there's something that's going on here that in English you would never see, because you just see God is translated as God. But this is Elohim, not YHWH. So in coming to pass, to be, and to become, let us take this back to where we were prior before, in the verse that we were looking at. So, finishing up with YHWH, this is the teaching pattern of mother and father here, and this is how it actually manifested from Hey Yod Hey. It is a vision that is given that reveals that which connects you to the second revelation. This is the teaching pattern of mother, who provides the divine masculine teaching. Then it connects us to the father's revelatory teaching for maturation, which is the divine feminine, which then makes the entity, as it is two that have been seamlessly divided, into one, which is the whole point of the system of duality that we see within here. Between light and dark, peace and calamity, it is meant to be rendered into one, that it shall come to pass and come to be. Another way to see this is two sides of the same exact coin. One face is presenting itself as mother, the second face is presenting itself as father, but really it is the same exact teaching pattern, an entity that is meant to rear us up and to grow us up into the way we are to go, from the immature love to the mature love. So let's start here at the beginning. So this is talking about the maturation process connected to YHWH, which isn't the Elohim in Genesis 1:2. So I form light and I create the darkness. So the word I form, taking a look at it, is from Yatsar, to form and fashion. And again, now we look at Genesis 2:7, same root word. Then the Lord, YHWH, Elohim. So the mystery digs, it goes a little bit deeper here when we see this, of what is going on with the teaching pattern of Elohim, mother and father, Elohim. So let's take a look at Yatsar as we root down a little bit further here. It is through the idea of squeezing into a shape, to mold into a form, especially as a potter. If you've listened to many of my teachings, I always talk about the root word as being static, full of potential, like a lump of clay. So this word, Yatsar, has to do with forming the lump of clay that is in the static form, to determine What form and fashion for the resolution of what that lump of clay is going to be. And here we have Yod Zadi Resh, and this Zadi Resh means to cramp and to confine. Well, that's interesting, because it says down on the bottom here that we are squeezing into shape through that which cramp and confines us. Well, the only way that can happen is by giving us a vision to see what we need to be formed and fashioned into in that squeezing into a shape through the cramped and confined spot. Digging deeper here, we now have the vav that has been added. Now this is into the root of the word, and the vav means connect. So now you've connected to the root and the center where source dwells. This is the place of the Creator that dwells within us, the spark energy that is within our being, that brings forth life, from the walking dead to the living who have life. This is one who is connected in their heart. Zadi means to hunt and chase in a journey. Resh is the poor and the destitute that are raised up to be first fruit leaders. So a vision was given that is the door to the inward man, so that we can connect at our heart, recognizing that we are poor and feeble. We need to deliver ourselves from that, but we are going to be put on a spiritual path where we hunt and chase that which we are looking for. And we are going to be raising ourselves up from that poor and destitute position to be a first fruit leader. So this is being formed into light. So the origin of first fruit leaders is becoming light. And this is the Aleph, which is the first. It means to be instructed and to teach, to tame the beast, to yoke it, and then to eradicate it by finding the thousandfold measure, which is the Mashiach anointing, finding the Christ within you. The Mashiach anointing, one who has been given the staff of authority to teach and to instruct, to goad and urge through speaking of the mouth revelatory words that will fill you up and connect you on the inside to raise you up to be as a measure of light. And let's take a look here. We'll go into the root. Illumination. Also a luminary, including lightning and happiness. Well, that's very interesting, to become illuminated, an illumination. It also is to be or to become light. So there is something here that is going on. Like if we take the surface translation of the scriptures, we are always going to be missing the application part to see the hidden, the esoteric side that is meant for application, to take us deeper, height and depth, breadth and width, to fill us up with meaning so that we can be created. So this word, and create darkness, this word to create is actually found in Genesis 1:1. The root of it is, in the beginning created Elohim Aleph Tav. So this is the first usage of the word to create. Now take a look at this. This is to shape. Now weren't we just looking at the previous word where it was talking about the word above, the yatsar, about squeezing into shape, forming clay? Well, that's interesting. So both of these are talking about creating. We also have cutting down wood, but selecting, feeding as a formative process in order to create. It's a bet resh aleph, so in the written form is now it has a vav added into the center and the vav in the front. Anything with the prefix is mother. This is connecting to her teachings, connecting to mother in humility as teachable, now as one who is connected within their heart. This is the word to create, but within it, this is also a word that also means to select as pure and innocent, purity and innocence, bet resh, and is also a word that means a heir to a throne, bar, an heir apparent to the throne. So there's a lot that is going on here. Light creating darkness. duality. So in the creation, what we are doing is we are building ourselves on the inside by connecting to that which raises us up from being poor and destitute into first fruit leaders as those who are one. There's a lot to be said here about Ra as well, as this is a shortened form of a word that means to see. So in creating, you can see both the light and the dark. And creating is in between both of those. Then we have the word for darkness. But notice that in how it has been translated, it's darkness and obscurity, but it's also the secret place. And when we take a look at the letters, this is a hidden meaning, the symbol that means life. It is spelled Het Yod Tav, and Het Yod is the Hebrew word for life. So this would literally be the life of the covenant, of one who is marked as the living. Then we have the Sheen, the consuming fire, the Kaf, where we empty out our cup to grasp a hold of the languages that give us the power, the revelation that comes so we can grasp a hold of it, that is meant to bring life. But it has been hidden. It's the secret place. It has been obscured. And again, I can say, very much so, English has obscured it. Darkness, the absence of light, can be seen as an absence of information. So those who are walking in gross darkness have no light. Light is a frequency. Frequency carries information. So in the place of darkness, in our lack of knowledge, in our ignorance, this is where things that have been obscured to us, we will be able to seek and find. This is why the language is so lovely when you see the letters, because the resolve can actually be found within the word itself. Seek life. Find it in the covenant. Allow the consuming fire to deal with your fallen flesh and nature, but you must empty out your cup so you can grasp a hold of the power that is coming to you while you are in the darkness. So in grasping a hold, then you have the ability to make. And this is what I find fascinating, is this word, osa. This is to do, fashion, accomplish, and make. So again, we were talking about lump of clay, form and fashioning, right? So we were looking at the clay here. We were looking at the creating and forming and fashioning. And now we're talking about making. And what I think is so amazing about this, and you would only be able to see it if we're looking at all of these definitions here. You can even see down on the bottom, to press and to squeeze. Again, we're talking about that zadi resh, squeezing in the tight place, forming and fashioning, to put in order, to make, to prepare, to acquire. There's a lot going on here. But what I wanted to point out to you is something that you do not normally see. The hay has been left intact. Normally, this hay, this revelatory piece, is what was taken from us. This is our inheritance. This is our creative ability. And when the veil came in and it separated us, and the ego came in, this hay was removed. But in this instance, it is still there. And look at the first usage of this. The law of first mention, the first time it's used, is in Genesis 1:7. And this is the point I was making. Here is that word with no hay. What happened? But we have Elohim, Aleph Tav. So God, Elohim, not Yod He, Vav He. So within Yod or Elohim, we have God, the word God, and we have He already in there. So the Elohim already had the revelatory creative process as the He added on to the suffix of the word God, the revelatory process of the power of the vision given to him while in the waters above, no longer in the waters of chaos, but having completed their journey through the Aleph Tav, and they created through the language. The hay was already there. So for anybody that was in the lower, the hay was missing. So in this verse, the hay has been left intact. Well, why is the hay left intact? Well, in this process of forming light and forming darkness, I make, well, you got to go further. We already know, because we looked down further, that it was Yod He Vav He. So, I create calamity, or a peace, and I create calamity. We have the word peace here. So, this is consuming the authority that is connected to the waters of chaos. So peace is what rids of the calamity, or of the waters of chaos, when we take a look at it through paleo. But in a little deeper, this is the consuming fire that gives us the power to rise above our fallen flesh nature. It instructs us through the waters, the living water teachings that point the way to the door, which opens this revelation up to us so we can find that we are weak and feeble on the inside, delivering ourselves from that if we connect to it and pierce our hearts with this information so that we can be set in the waters above. And peace, completeness, soundness, welfare, peace, sound in body, having health and prosperity, having tranquility and contentment, peace in friendship, in human relationships, and especially with our relationship with Source in a covenant relationship, and peace being an absence from war. And then we have the word create again. And again, we've got connecting to Mother, in teaching in humility, building ourselves on the inside, connecting to the Source within us that raises us up to a first fruit leader to become as one who is associated to and with, as the first, as the beginning, as the Aleph, the thousandfold measure. Then we go into the word calamity, and I find this one really interesting because when you take a look at it, in some translations they've said that this is, I make peace and I create evil. And yes, that is part of it, but there's also other words here. So the translator chose to use calamity, but what else is available for us to look at? So when you take a look, let's see what other words there are for adversity, bad, and evil. In definition, we can see bad as a noun, evil, natural, or moral. But there's other spellings. Or same spelling, but different definitions. So we can see distress, misery, injury, and calamity, which we've already pretty much seen that, resh ein. Perhaps shouting, a roar. Okay. A friend, a companion, a fellow. A purpose and an aim. Okay, well that changes that a lot more when we take a look at it. And when you see where the root of that is, to pasture, tend, and graze. To tend a flock. Pasture it, graze, to rule, to associate with as a friend. So to tend a flock, this is actually the root of one who shepherds. And one who shepherds is one who has been given the hay, the revelation that was kept from us when we fell in our level of consciousness, when our veil of forgetting came in, when the veil was put in place. That is pretty amazing. So we were looking at pasturing, grazing it. We were looking at friend and companion and fellow, perhaps a shouting and a roar. But we were also taking a look and seeing that in this process it was thought, purpose, and aim. So I create having purpose and aim as a friend and a companion, as one who is a shepherd. So we can see that this word is in duality as well. So dependent upon what your eyes see is exactly where you're going to see this word. You're either going to go to this as this means evil, or you're going to see this as a companion and a friend, as thought, as a purpose and an aim, creating our purpose and aim to raise us up from being poor and destitute, giving us the eyes to see the fountain that resides within us to raise us from our lower flesh nature, so that we can be companions and friends to one another. And then we have the word I, Ani, Yod, He, Vav, He. This is a teaching pattern for us to become. This is what raises us up. If we were created as Elohim in the very beginning, and the reason why I say that, let's look at what Psalm 82:6 says. I said, gods, you are, and children of the Most High, all of you. I said, gods, you, the children. There we go. In the beginning, Elohim created. So we are here. We have forgotten who we are, so the teaching pattern has to come to teach us. Now, the reason why I use that specifically in raising us up is something that people don't generally see. There are many different ways that this Yod He Vav He is spelled. And the only way you would see this is by coming in to see all the forms and transliterations. Sometimes Yod He Vav He has a bet added in front of it. So, I would just question, well, why is the bet? Because there's meanings. Sometimes it has a lamed added in front of it, plus a vav. There's a whole bunch of lamed Yod He Vav He, which means instruct and teach. And we also have a mem added in front of it, as well as a sheen. So unless you know what's going on here, you would have no idea that Yod He Vav He is spelled any differently. So again, the teaching pattern. I am Yahuwah. I am both mother and father as a teaching pattern, as I'm becoming it. And I will do all of these things. Ani, Aleph, Nun, Yod. This is short from Anoki and means the same thing, but this is one who has become one who has walked the spiritual path, that took the seed vision and produced life in them as an heir to a throne, a strong base and authority, where they grasped a hold of the power that was given to them by entering in the door of their inward man to find the revelation that they needed. And these are those who give. These are not selfish people. These are those who are selfless, that have gone through the teaching pattern of mother and father, Yod He Vav He, two faces of the same coin, that will do all of these things. And Kaf Lamed means all and whole. So they grasped a hold of the language, because Kaf is spelled Kaf Pei. They grasped a hold of the language that brought forth the revelation that instructed them how to be whole, how to be complete. And then we have the word, these things. This was added for grammatical purposes, so it's all these. Aleph Lamed is the word for God. God, in plural, gods. It is the strong leader, teaching shepherd that has authority. And again, that is part of Elohim. So in looking at this, this is one who is become, as God, who has that revelation, the He, added to the suffix, which means that which was taken from us, which is technically our higher self that we were disconnected from, our creator ability that we were given, that we had in the beginning, was removed from us, leaving just El. We had to be reconnected to this. And in order to be reconnected to the He, in order to mature us, we had to go through the teaching pattern of mother and father to be. So again, tracing it back down to its root so I can show you where it's coming from. The self-existent and the eternal. The two hays. This is because when we came in born with no knowledge. So it had to be taught in increments. Raise us up to maturation to become the age of accountability, and then go from the age of accountability into our maturation, so that we could be and become that which we once were as Elohim, that were in the beginning. So, when we see this, that becoming the strong leader teaching shepherds that have the authority, then this ends up with the Samekh. Now I know there's other meanings here, but this letter here by itself means, it's a symbol for the wedding ring and the signet ring. This means being propped up, hedged in, supported, and surrounded by a shield of thorns. These are those who have been wed. These are the ones that are now, as they've gone through the teaching pattern of YHWH, and they will do all of these things. This is what's so amazing about understanding our school of divinity, is that we are creating light and dark and peace and war and calamity, but we are really meant to be shepherds, companions, and friends with one another. But we have to be raised up out of our poor and destitute place so that we can see these things. This is us learning in the system of duality to make everything one again, to make it complete and whole, no longer divided in the system of duality. And this has been hidden from us because they did not want us to know the power that we have within us as creators, that we were sent here to do as a fractal of Source from the Creator that sent us out on a mission to be able to come here and experience. Because in the beginning, we were here as Elohim, and then we made man in our image, and that's when the veil happened, and that hay that we needed, this one was removed from us so that we could experience in creating light and dark, peace and war, to find the narrow path between both of those things, to render it clear into making it unified, making it as one through the teaching principles of Mother and Father, knowing that we have the divine masculine and the divine feminine as the Creator to make everything whole and complete. Then we are connected back to the revelation that was taken from us. We are now the strong leaders, the teaching shepherds that are as the Elohim, that have our higher selves now attached back to us as those who have been married, hedged in, supported, have been given the signet ring, because we've learned from the system of duality in good and evil, light and dark. It's a pretty powerful verse for us to remember who we are. Shalom, shalom, and namaste.